All right, welcome everybody to episode 1 of the Land to Sea Commercial Real Estate Team podcast. Beautiful sunny Florida. To my left, which is your right probably, I have Tim Martin. He is our environmental specialist, and he's going to talk a little bit today about some horror stories in the environmental phase work when you guys are picking out land for your development sites, why that's so important. To my right, I have our multifamily and cash flow expert. He's going to talk about why multifamily is suffering so much right now in the market due to the high interest rates, but I'll let them get into those details. So, as a whole, there's a lot of good things going on in the state of Florida when it comes to manufacturing, the amount of money that the government's pouring in here, and tech companies moving from the higher tax states that are not doing so well in this economy, California, Illinois, New York. So we're getting not only a lot of personal movement as far as families coming down to enjoy the great state of Florida, but on the commercial side, entire businesses, entire real estate companies, tech companies, startups, even some from Silicon Valley that started up over there and are now moving over here to Tampa, where a lot of these startups are starting to grab a lot of attention in the artificial intelligence and the robot automation space here in Florida. So it's been huge for our state. It's been huge for commercial real estate. People are, when they come down, they think they're going to get a good deal, and you're just not. It's very, very much still a seller's and a landlord's market here in Florida. So when you make your bids, you've pretty much got to be right at asking. You've got to have all your ducks in a row. You've got to have a good team in place that's already done the due diligence, putting in a strong offer, and really being able to sell your concept and your business to get into these spaces. It's not easy. It's not easy, despite the struggles elsewhere in the country. So that's why it's important to work with a full team like ours that has all of these things in-house that we can address. Aside from the guys that we have here, we have a commercial real estate attorney, Lisa. She's absolutely phenomenal when it comes to contracts and helping clients understand the risks to the offers that they're looking at, weighing them. It's not all about the dollar amount. It's about how much the person's financing, other factors in their contract when it comes to due diligence. Then we also have Russ, who's a civil engineer, and he just helped us with a client who purchased a building in Sarasota with a pretty big lot in the back. He helped us build an additional blueprint for a building back there, and educated us that our client's desire for a 20,000 square foot building was not very feasible because of some wetlands and some setback rules, as well as the rule that any building over 10,000 square foot has to be sprinkled. So he was able to drop the design down to 9,900 square feet, and our client was very happy because the dollar per square foot really made it a great investment. On top of that, we have a mortgage loan officer on board. We have a couple of commercial realtors that speak Spanish on the team as well. If you guys speak Spanish, or if you have a client that speaks Spanish and you need help there. And we're all over the state. The other big heavy hitter that we have, who's actually selling a yacht business right now, is in Fort Lauderdale, Christine Higby Schmidt, who is actually going to be on the next episode of our podcast. She is an amazing tenant rep. She ran her own business. She's getting into business brokerage now. That's kind of the hot topic. And we also have a team of business brokers throughout the state as well. We're very happy to have Bill Morgan joining the team. He's got 25 years experience in medical device as well as payroll. And he's been doing business brokerage. We finally recruited him. That was a long, arduous process, but he is a major addition to the team, so we're excited about that. So without further ado, talking about the people that are not here, we'll let the people that are here take over. So awesome. Ace, why don't you tell us about what's happening in multifamily and why all those multifamily buyers are pulling their hair right now.
Of course. Again, thank you for everyone who's watching this today, and thank you, Kevin, for the amazing introduction. So let's get right into it. So like Kevin said, I do multifamily, short term, long term tenants, and right now the market in Florida isn't. It's amazing. The economy's good, but it's a seller's market, like he said. You know, you gotta work with the sellers and what they want. You can't come in as a buyer and you're like, I'm only want to spend this amount of money and I want this amount of cash flow, and you get that. You really have to work with the seller and then their needs. And on top of that, you have interest rates constantly going up, and they just passed another bill that it just went up again. It's a hop, so it's gonna come in later on this year, but it's gonna come in soon. So interest rates are gonna keep rising. I don't know if we're gonna see any drop on the prices, but on the properties, but deals are kind of tough right now. That being said, you know, cash flow. Cash flow is king, and that's what we all want. But we're not finding that here in Florida, unless you're looking at the big deals, a lot of the major ones. But yeah, it's not working. It's not working too good.
What's the biggest reason for that?
For the cash flow not being great.
Yeah, the cash flow was amazing for the last couple of years, but now not so much.
Yeah, like I said, it's just because sellers are not working with the buyers. Sellers are stuck in their own ways. They believe their property is worth so much more than maybe it actually is. What these sellers are not really thinking about is they bought this property at 3-4%, and right now we're looking at 7.5% interest rates, and that's destroying the cash flow completely. It doesn't matter how much your NOI is, it doesn't matter how much you're charging for rent. If your property is worth a couple million and you're only putting 20% down, the interest rates the mortgage is gonna eat the whole cash flow.
Yeah.
And
the rent raises are not keeping up with the interest.
Absolutely not. Yeah, they're not. They maybe go up a little bit, 0.5% or whatever it is, but it's just not. It's not working out for the buyers. So right now, buyers are like, why should I buy? Why should I just wait? And we know that's because we want the economy, we want inflation to go down, and that's why they're raising everything up. But it's just not.
They're waiting for that crash that's not coming.
Yeah.
Because it's the first time in history that interest rates went up, but the housing market hasn't crashed.
Yeah.
Especially here in Florida. So the correlation between the rates going up and the prices coming down, this is the first time ever in this country's history. It's happened in previous countries and empires like the Roman Empire. One of the things that led to their downfall and their hyperinflation, the Ottoman Empire, Byzantine Empire, all the same thing. So maybe America has hit that 200-year shelf life.
Yeah, and that being said, that's a good point. But you're like, why has it not crashed yet? And it's because there's still people buying. In the end of the day, we're still working with clients all the time that for a property is worth $1 million, you're like, okay, submit an offer for 1.1 million. They're still willing to pay that extra $100,000, even though the cash flow isn't great. Even though they're going to be making less money out of it, there's still people out there buying these properties, and that's why you're not seeing any drop. The properties aren't dropping down in price. It's like the sellers aren't budgeting, buyers aren't budgeting, but there are still some buyers are willing to pay the price. They have that money saved up for previous years
because they're afraid of the stock market. Where else are they going to put it?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the end of the day, real estate still is one of the safest ones to go with. And so, not, you don't want to go with the stock market or anything, but you want to go with the real estate. And these people that have money are going to end up just doing that, just going with the real estate.
So for working families, we're noticing, especially husband and wife teams that are coming down from up north or even different countries. And we're working a lot with a very strong immigration attorney and team that's actually in the executive committee for EXP Commercial. Her name is Lauren Cohen. I want to give her a big shout out. Her and her team are absolutely amazing. You guys should check out her podcast. But, these younger husband and wife or young professionals that are coming down, for them, a huge option that a lot of them are turning to, especially with our advice, is business brokerage. Because the cash flow is not there in the real estate. And when we say cash flow, what we're talking about is the 1% rule. You want to touch on the 1% rule real quick?
Yeah, so the 1% is like our cash on cash. So basically, if you want to buy a property worth $100 or worth $1 million, and you put a down payment of $200,000, we want a 1% cash on cash return. You want to cover that some more?
We should be like $2,000 a month.
Yeah, like 2,000,
So-
and that's the one. 12, out of 12 months in a year, that's 12% return in a year, so 1% in a month.
So basically, historically, the stock market, especially index funds, have performed at about 8%. So if you're making 8% on your money, an 8% cap, that's a good return on your money. The 1% rule is 12% return on your money, because it's 1% per month for 12 months in a year. Now, obviously, if you're a landlord, you're going to have to deal with repairs and things like that. So when it averages out, that 12%, it's a little lower. It gets closer to that 8% that everybody's looking for. But then, over the long haul, you add the appreciation of the actual real estate, and now you have a real winner of an investment that was safe, earning cash flow the entire time. You're getting a monthly check. And if you're at 1%, that means you're higher than the mortgage payment as well. So you're getting positive. You're paying off that mortgage. You're still getting money for your family. So we've got a system right now that Ace and I have built 6,000 properties in that system. What do you say, about 60, 70 of them hit the 1% rule?
I sit down and I do cash flows all the time. I look through the system, I look through the spaces, and I hardly find good deals now. The 1% rule is so rare to find. You have to really get lucky by finding a great property with a great deal. And it's like,
oh, and let me ask you this too. If I find a property online and it says 13% cap rate, that's a good deal, right?
I love the cap rates, and I love how, all these brokers or these anyone who has these properties will I feel like they just make up these numbers, honestly. They go on and they put down like, what's my favorite number? 15% cap rate. And it's just like, they really, the whole cap rate thing, just don't buy it. When you're looking at properties, don't even you can organize the whole filter as cap rate, but don't fall for it's a 10% cap rate. Oh, it's a 4% cap rate. Don't look at that number. Get the financial sheet, put it in, whatever system you have. Me and Kevin, our team, we have our whole cash flow system that we work with. It's very, very easy, very, how we built it for us. But, that's what you need to do. Don't trust what anyone says. In the end of the day, you really need to do your own due diligence. You need to get all the numbers from the broker or the property owner, see how much rent they're making, how much expenses they're making, or how much they have to be paying for expenses, and do the numbers yourself, because the cap rate, I would say 100% now. They're not accurate. No, not even one number is accurate. The cash on cash, going back to that, it's like I said, very hard to find a good deal now, unless you had a lot of money and it's all investor money. If you're gonna put in with your own money out right now, like use your own, you're not gonna get the best deal. That.
No. I mean, some of these deals I've looked at, you pretty much have to be a business broker to recast the financial sheet to get the true number anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but yeah, those are the challenges, and for those younger families, we're recommending that they look at businesses, because there's businesses that they can get involved in, and especially those coming across borders. If you buy a business and have a strong business plan, and you can hire 10 employees over the 5 years, you can get a fast pass to your visa, and that's something you should reach out to Lauren and her team about if you're watching this outside of the United States, wanting to get into the party. Much easier path. Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing. I just want to, or we can continue talking about it. Like I said, the multifamily isn't not great right now. It's not a hot market, even though we have so many buyers. Buyers every day are calling, wanting multifamily. The deals aren't there, but there is, the past few months, I've noticed that it's multifamily long-term tenants might not be the move right now, with just everything going on. But the only thing that's actually working is short-term rentals, Airbnbs, maybe month-to-month rentals, mid-term rentals. Those are actually cash flowing an insane amount of money. It's crazy. I see sometimes single-family homes, just residential single-family homes that are worth $300,000, $350,000, $400,000, are cash flowing just as much of a multifamily 5-6 units worth $1.2 million. And it's crazy, and there's obviously the risk with that. In Florida and mostly every other state in the country, it's not regulated, it's not legal. It's county to county, everyone's different. If you're in the city or in the county, everything, there's small details you have to follow. But the people that do have a single family or even, one or two, 3 units outside outside the city and in the county, and are doing Airbnb, and they got the permit and they're paying their taxes and everything, they're doing it legal. And that's the most important thing, because you don't want to get cited, because a lot of these other multifamily or anybody else who wants to do Airbnb and short-term rentals is that it's not legal, and they're even going worse with it. So they're like, okay, it's not regulated, and I'm not going to pay for taxes, and I'm not going to pay, my tax, not like property taxes, but taxes for the Airbnb.
Yeah. So the cash flow looks great on the advertisement.
Yeah.
But then you come to find out they're not allowed to be doing Airbnb at the property.
Absolutely. Yeah, and absolutely. So, myself, I had a deal fall through. After I brought my client, we went to the tour, we submitted an offer, we loved the property, great cash flow. Then I'm pretty sure Kevin called the city to see any information about the property, because it's an Airbnb in the end of the day near the beach. So
right near the beach.
Right near the beach.
Other stuff nearby. It just so happened that this particular building was considered non-conforming, and despite the first person that we spoke to saying that it was okay, we actually got a call back right as we were finished the tour with the client. Hey, I'm so-and-so's manager here at the city. That particular building is non-conforming because of the way it was built back in the 70s, and we've actually cited the owner multiple times for Airbnb in that property when we've told him to stop. So of course that deal had to fall through.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we can't put our client in that situation.
Absolutely not. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. So like even the short-term rentals, and like that's why I brought it up, because you can still do it. I'm not saying that was just one scenario that when we went through, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, because if you do it outside the city, it's in the county, you're paying your Airbnb taxes for the city, or wherever you're living at, and you have a permit. If they ask for a permit, you can do it. Nothing's stopping you. And these are the only deals that I'm finding that are actually getting cash flow. Residential properties, people, investors buying it and turning it into Airbnbs, or maybe a duplex, triplex. You can even go up to 10 units, whatever. If you can do it legally, these are the best deals that we're finding right now. The long-term tenants right now are out, and you're not gonna find that. If you're coming in expectations that I want to buy this multifamily property, I love it, it's a great deal, you're happy, you're not gonna get what you want out of it. You're not gonna get the cash flow. You're not gonna hit the 1% unless you get an off-market deal. Unless you know someone that knows someone that knows someone who's gonna really hook you up with that great deal. So, but if you are thinking about it for at least multifamily, I don't want to discourage you. There's still good deals out there. It's a big state. There's a lot of properties. People are constantly selling. People are going through stuff.
We've recently discovered a couple hotspots, which we won't share here, but there are a couple hotspots where deals are cash flowing.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's always deals. There's just a lot slimmer to find right now. You got to do a lot more research. You got to know someone. That's great too. If you know someone that knows someone, you're gonna find that deal. And Airbnbs too. Airbnbs right now, it's a gold mine.
I mean, it's been so crazy lately. We have 3 buyers especially that we submit the offer before we even call them. They're like, don't bother, because especially in those hotspots we mentioned, the moment they go up, they're gone. So they're very thankful that we do that. And we call them and say, hey, we sent an offer in. Okay, great. Let me know what the deal is later when I get home tonight. So having confidence in your team, that your team is working for you, goes a long way. But that being said, I'd like to pivot to our man Tim here, who has patiently waited under the hot Florida sun.
I was a sun, Tim. The sun's probably killing you.
Feels great though, That's the one thing you get plenty of down here, which I always appreciate. Is lots of sun.
We wanted the environmental guy to face the toughest environmental conditions possible. But so funny story. We just got a client who, let's just say, doesn't have all their ducks in a row, but they reached out to us wanting some land to start a tow truck company. in a particularly difficult location in Florida. And I talked to him about the importance of having a business plan, having everything together before we go out and look for properties. And I spent an hour and a half on the phone with this guy. He really wanted us to go look for properties for him before doing all the due diligence that he needed to do. And basically, I said, okay, well, I have a perfect spot for you, and it's for an amazing price. Here's the price, high traffic area. You want it? Would you do it? Yeah, that price works for me. Submit the offer. I said, great. What's the name of the business I'm putting on the offer? He doesn't even have a name of the business yet. I said, do you see why this is so important? We have to get this stuff. So I know, and he'd been turned down by other brokers before. But what we do with business broker and the consulting aspect of what our team does, we actually can pass him off to our consulting firm and get him in touch with somebody that will file the paperwork with the state, help him come up with his business name, a graphic designer to do logo, a web developer to design his website, get all his ducks in a row, and then he can come back to me and I can find a space for him. So finally we were able to convince him that is the correct order of operations, PEMDAS, and please excuse my dear Aunt Sally for those who have not grown up in our generation. And so now he comes back and, or actually while he's doing that, I call Tim. I say, Tim, guy is looking at doing a tow truck company in this area. And without revealing the area, because we don't want to give the guy away, what did you say?
Well, so I do work all over the state. I'm an environmental contractor. That's where my background's in. I've been doing this for 7.5 years. I have my professional geologist license with the state of Florida. What does that mean? That means I can look in and review and write reports. It's going to go to the counties. It's going to go to the state, the regulators, all those big guys who are going to be the ones that are handing out the fines and putting the brakes on opening up certain types of businesses that you want to own in areas, especially, tow trucks not so bad, but let's just say this guy also wanted to do mechanic work. Well, there's going to be a lot of permitting that's going to be going on with that because you're going to be generating some hazardous waste, things like used oil or... But anyways, when Kevin told me the area where this guy wanted to open his business and he was buying it was a piece of land, right? There's nothing there. I worked with a client who recently was in that same area, wanted to build a brand new piece of, they want to build a brand new building. They actually had a whole bunch of ideas that they wanted to do with this. And we get out there to finally do some of the due diligence work. In this case, it was a phase 2, so they wanted to actually get some soil samples. When my guys go out there to actually start collecting everything, they realize that there were a bunch of flags and markers all over the property. So first thing to do is call me up. Hey, Tim, what's going on here? I didn't know. No one told me anything about this. Come to find out later on that, this is Florida. There's a lot of awesome and amazing wildlife here. A lot of protection put on wildlife here because you see things, so many species that you're not going to see elsewhere. Well, there is a species of animal. It's called a gopher tortoise. And it burrows like 50 feet down into the ground. It's actually called a keystone species because approximately 360 other animals will use that burrow as their residence as well. So it's a very high protected. If you remove and eliminate the gopher tortoise, you run the risk of damaging a whole other bunch of ecosystems. The state protects it very highly. You damage these things, they're going to fine you for tens of thousands of dollars per burrow damaged. So here's the problem. They want to start building on this. Turns out, for my client in the same area, same town, 75 gopher tortoise burrows.
75?
On a 13-acre piece of property. It's a pretty big piece of property.
So you're talking like 750 grand.
I asked my subcontractor that I use, who is licensed with the state, who can go in and actually remove these tortoises because you can't touch them unless you actually have a license. How much would it cost? $6,000 a tortoise.
Oh my God.
You got to buy space, other parts of the state, where they can take these animals that can live in that type of environment. You can't just put them anywhere. They got to be able to live in the same type of environment, same type of soil, same everything, so they can make their burrows. But yeah, who's going to spend $750,000 now? I don't know if my client still bought the property. I don't know what they want to do about it. Because you got to pay. You got to get them removed. And there's a lot of applications and licenses and permits that have to be filed with the state. These guys didn't look into that. They kind of withheld the information from me because they had one done before and they didn't tell me about it. I wish I would have known about it before we go out there to do this, because I could have said, look, this just isn't going to work. If you want to put all of this new development, all these buildings, you have all these great ideas,
Yeah.
but you didn't do your due diligence at the beginning. Now you're stuck with a piece of property.
So to all the folks coming from up north and they want to come down to sunny, beautiful Florida, what are some of the environmental challenges that they wouldn't be aware of? And even to people down here, something I hear a lot is wetlands. And I know that it's a bad thing for my clients, but I can't say that I fully understand it.
So wetlands, I mean, you'll find them in other states, but down here, they're everywhere. Florida's a swamplands type of state. I mean, anywhere you go, they have a lot of protected species, a lot of bird species. Lots of bald eagles are going to be protected. Ospreys, which is another predatory bird, they're protected. They rely on a lot of these places to be able to go as their source of food. So, with that being said, there's a lot of land for sale that's going to have wetlands, and you can't build on them. You can get permitting done. It's not easy to get the permitting done that you need to actually build on these wetlands. You can't fill them in because that's actually a federal crime.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Army Corps of Engineer, they are the ones who handle all of the permits when it comes to filling wetlands. So you need to be in contact with them. You need to have their permission, pay the permits. And a lot of the times what you have to do is you actually have to relocate the wetland. So if you want to build somewhere, you can relocate that wetland. It's not going to be cheap. So this is another reason why, I've had people do the same thing too. If they want to go buy a piece of property, oh, this is really cheap. This is a great deal, great location. But what they want to use it for and put a property or put a piece of, or a building on it, you can't now.
Right.
Because you can't fill in that wetland. So you see the wetlands up north here and there.
Right.
It's a very common thing down here. So making sure that you actually have delineation done on your wetlands on a piece of property. We had a client who was just looking to buy some pasture land. They want to put a house on it. And we had to go do a wetlands delineation for them to make sure, because when you go to put in your permits to build the building, they're going to want to see that documentation that it's been done, that it's been marked out, and they know where it is.
Right.
Otherwise, you're not going to get approval to build.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I heard so much, but I never understood. Wow, the Army Corps of Engineers has to be involved. That's
Yeah,
something.
if you want to start filling wetlands, yeah, they're usually the ones that...
So then, is there an easy way to determine if a piece of land might be susceptible to having wetlands on it, or should you just assume that no matter what land you look at, you're going to have to pay for at least a phase one? And could you talk about the difference between phase one and phase two?
Sure. So you can't automatically assume. It's kind of hard. In the state of Florida, you do not need to have a license to do wetlands delineation. The problem's going to be if you just send anyone out there and the county or the state comes back and says, well, who did your wetlands? Joe Schmo over here did it. Well, how long has he been doing it for?
Right.
Does he know the actual code book from the state of Florida? And how long has he been doing it for? Show some more examples, because they're going to question and say, look, we don't necessarily agree. Even though there is no licensing procedure, he doesn't really know what he's doing. And that could be a problem. They could just deny your permit right there. There are websites, federal websites you can go onto, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, but those aren't always 100% accurate. They're using satellite aerial imagery, so you'll think, there's nothing here. You can see different types of freshwater emerging pond, all different types of wetlands. You can see it there, but it's not going to be 100% accurate. So until you get that wetlands delineation done, it doesn't mean anything. So you can have an idea, but it doesn't mean you're 100% right.
Right.
That's why it makes it tough.
Do you have any other horror stories to share? Discoveries you made in a...
Well, let me talk about the phase one, phase two real quick. So especially when you're getting financing from a bank, this is where it comes up, a big thing. The bank is going to want to make sure that their money that they're investing on that property isn't going to be at risk. This piece of land could be worth $1 million, but if there's an environmental contamination that's going to cost X amount of dollars to clean up, now that land value's gone, and they're the ones that are losing their money. So they'll go out, they'll find an environmental consulting firm, hire them to do the phase one. It's a lot of just historical documents, research, aerials. They're going to look at old insurance maps just to see what kind of buildings were there, if there were any issues, like underground storage tanks or manufacturing facilities. All computer work. Phase two is when there's something that's been identified that could be an issue. Maybe there was an old gas station there and they didn't properly close it out. There could be tanks underground that you can't see. So then you go out, you'll actually do some sampling, make sure there's no environmental exceedances according to the state. So that doesn't always come out. Phase 2s don't always happen, but phase 1's, it's important because it covers you with liability. It gives you liability protections, because if you don't have that phase 1 done, and there's an issue later on, you're now the owner of the property.
Right.
Doesn't matter who was there before you, or what they
Right.
did, or what kind of nasty chemicals they were dumping everywhere. You are now liable for it, and you're going to pay for the cleanup. But if you did your due diligence and came back and said, here's the phase 1, X and X company used to work here or operate here, and they dumped chemicals. We have it documented. It was not us, it was them.
Right.
You'll be protected from potential litigation from the state,
Wow.
from the EPA. I mean, it's
What
not
happens if you
common.
can't afford the cleanup? Can they seize the property?
Yeah, they'll put liens on your property, absolutely, because you are now the primary responsible. I've seen people. I mean, I've not personally people I've dealt with, but I've heard the stories where they lose it all because they're now held liable because this is their property
Right.
and they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Right.
I mean, horror stories like that. I had a property where a guy, he wanted to buy an old mechanic shop, and it had apartments above it, and they were still allowed to keep using those as residential. So he wanted to redevelop the whole property and still rent out the tenant spaces in the apartments to make a cash flow, and then hopefully rent out the commercial workspace and just have a nice property, have some cash flow coming in. He was told there were 3 underground storage tanks associated with that. Okay, not a problem. We go out there, we do the phase 2 now. We have ground penetrating radar. They go out there, they're walking along, they're like, well, we found a lot more than 3 tanks out here. There was actually, I think 7 or 8 total. One of them ended up going underneath of a state-owned roadway, so now it was a Department of Transportation had to come in and get involved. They had other tanks.
What's the cost per tank?
To pull a tank, it depends. I mean, probably nowadays it's a couple, maybe like $1,500, $2,000 to pull a tank. But that's like doing all the sampling, all the regulatory, all the closeouts. It could be given to the state and say, look, it's done, it's good.
Right.
Well, some of these tanks that they were putting underground were not meant to be underground. They were either old fuel oil tanks that people usually kept on the outside of their house, and they were just burying them so they had extra storage to keep it out of sight and make the property look nicer. And then later on we find out, yep, that means this thing's leaking now because it's not rated to be underground and handle being wet constantly in the ground. So you just got to be careful. It's just important to do the due diligence, even though sometimes it just seems like an extra hassle, but it really could come back to bite you and your liabilities. You think you have this great business, everything's operating great, and now suddenly you're responsible for everything.
Right. God. It's always the most overlooked things that are the most important. And I always love to hear somebody passionate about subjects that don't get talked about very often. And that's one that we definitely need to make sure that we're aware of here in Florida.
Very, very highly protected of all environmental everything out here, just because there are so many protected species. It's
Would you say that the animals come more into play, or the wetland delineation is more of a factor?
I mean, they kind of
Both?
tied together
Hand
at
in
that
hand?
point.
Yeah.
You know, the species that travel around. I mean, think about how many birds migrate south to Florida.
Yeah.
All these animals come down this way, and they're reliant upon the naturally occurring wetlands and other habitats that if you destroy them, you're destroying ecosystems, not just here in Florida. And they understand that. I mean, the state's
Right.
really, really good about that. And, it's impressive how they actually care so much about that, because people think, oh, Florida, they're a bunch of, they don't care about anything down there. But it's actually, they actually take things pretty seriously. So it's good, because I work a lot with the state regulators and the counties, and they're sticklers. If I send a report in and it's missing 1 or 2 things, they want it. They want all the answers. They're not going to just say, oh yeah, it looks fine. You got to have everything lined up and presented to them, or they're going to come back with you and they're just going to push back. You might have to do more work if you're not planning things out correctly. So
Right.
it's really important.
Well, awesome. Did you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah.
Jace?
Well, not really much to add to that, but that is like Tim said, it's very important, doing your due diligence. But just I don't want to shift the whole conversation over, but this is how important it is to have just a diversity in your team, like having Tim, environmental expert. For me, I can get a deal or I can get a client that wants, build a huge multifamily. This is how we can all work on hand together by having such a, diverse team. Is I can get a, client wants to build condos in a specific area, Sarasota, anywhere, on the Gulf of Florida, and I can just call my partner, Tim, and this is why it's amazing, because I don't need to go outside sourcing for someone for a different company, someone who works on my team, and I can give him, we can work together. I can give him a percentage of my commission too, because he's doing just as much work as I am, and we can get the deal closed together. The client will have a connection with me, Kevin. Kevin can, help him out with other information because, he does business brokerage, and maybe they have their, I'm working with a wife and her husband does business. Kevin can come in. He's like, okay, I can show you some things about business brokerage, and Tim can come over here and do all the environmental work, and Lisa can be our lawyer after we want to close the deal, and Doug, our consultant, he can consult the business after Kevin.
Yeah, we have already 4 clients that have touched every member of the team on one transaction.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Absolutely, and that's why it's just amazing, being a part of a team right now for me, so diverse. It's amazing, you have so many options. You have so many people can help you out. You never have to go.
Talk about how long have you been with EXP Commercial at this point? How long have you been on the team? Why don't you talk about that?
So I joined. I'm new to commercial real estate. I'll give you a quick brief of what I did before commercial real estate. I was an HVAC technician, installing heat pumps up in New England. That's where I live. That's where I came from. I grew up in New England, Maine, if anyone, any Mainers watching. But coming down to Florida about 4 months ago and becoming a commercial real estate agent. And to be honest, I think I've chosen the best team in Florida. I don't think I could have went with a better team, just because the things that this team offers is I'm the type of person that I don't just jump in the first thing that offers to me. I can work hard. I know if someone offers me the right things, I can do it. But I didn't want to just work with anybody, because I know a lot of people just want you as a number. They just want you on the team to maybe they can make money off of you, take commission off of you, or whatever. I'm not talking bad about any other brokerage out there. I'm just saying some people just look at you as a number. But when I found this team and all the members that I met, it just clicked in my head. This is a unique team. All the other people, it's an interview process. Me interviewing my mentors and them interviewing me and my team in general. And it just, it clicked in my head. This is a team that's fairly new. And when I mean by fairly new, not fairly new to real estate, but just as a team together to EXP, and just, everyone, it's like, the founders, like, Doug and Kevin, their main goal was to, honestly, it just is coming from my mouth, not his, but it just seemed like they were looking for a diverse team that can specialize in everything. So they don't have to always seek for outside sources. They can just contact my partner, Ace. I need, do you have any multifamily right now? I have a client that wants, this amount of units, and he wants this cash flow. Boom, boom. I'll send him an email. He'll forward his email to his client. Deal closed. Tim can just hop in whenever he wants. Lisa can hop in whenever Christine anyone can just hop in whenever they want. And that's what's so amazing about this team, And anyone who's, looking to become a real estate agent, I would say the biggest advice for someone who's fairly new too is join the right team. Do your due diligence for yourself, before joining anyone. Because in the end of the day, someone will, like I said, will look at you as a number, They won't train you that well. They'll care about you because they want you to have some clients and close deals, but at the end of the day, if sometimes some people need, some people, like even myself, I need someone to explain it to me and show me maybe once or twice, or maybe even 3 times to me fully understand it. And what this team offers that, they're open with, if you didn't understand it the first time, to explain it again. And if they don't, and that's what's amazing. It's the most important thing as any kind of, agent, residential, business broker, commercial, is have the right team. Have people that actually care for you and want you to succeed, because that's going to give you confidence. Because when you're talking to the clients and you're stumbling with your words or some information that you've never heard about, that's totally fine. We're not perfect. So there's a lot of new things in real estate. You have to renew your license all the time because new things go on all the time, and new laws go by and everything. So having a team there, especially a lot of these vets, we have vets. Doug Sullivan, he's been in the business for years and years, so he understands a lot.
Shout out Doug.
Yeah, my man. But yeah, like team. That's where it all starts. It starts with your team and how much they can help you and how much you can help them, how much you guys can go back and forth. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, that was a beautiful testimonial. Awesome. Well, I don't know how we're going to top that. That is episode 1, a little introduction to at least 3 members of the team. And we're really looking forward to working with everybody at EXP Commercial. The network and the platform that you guys have built, even in the few short couple years that EXP Commercial has existed, it's taken the business by storm for a reason. It really is. And leveraging EXP Realty, the residential agents, giving them the confidence to give them an extra stream of income that they can talk to their clients about business brokerage because they have a broker to refer it to, and they can make their referral fee, commercial real estate. And all that synergy that we're capitalizing on at EXP has just been phenomenal. So I just want to thank everybody at EXP Commercial, everybody at EXP Realty for the amazing system that you've built that has allowed a team like ours to even exist, let alone operate and flourish the way that we have been. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys. Okay.
Appreciate
Bensound.com.
Oh, dude, Kevin, that was great. We do it different here. We do it different in Florida. We don't care.
Bensound.com.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.